You saw the title of this, but first let me just tell you guys, it works fine. It's fine. But it didn't always. I broke it. Hi, this is Magnus, and if you're new here, I talk about that. Tips, hacks, and talk on cameras for video. Anyway, in this episode, I'm going to talk about what happened to my 5D Mark IV and the adventure or the trial about the decision, should you get it fixed? And when you do, what happens? Coming up.
Behind you with like the clouds, the sky and everything, and still be able to see.
We've got the Rode Video Mic. Here we go. M50. What do you guys think? Here's the story of how this thing broke. Now, it didn't break completely, but I did drop it. Now, a couple of months back, I did a video with this bad boy, and I was talking about what to do and what not to do when you have one of these and you have a camera that's expensive on top of it and you're trying to set it up and not mess it up. Well, apparently I was shooting a video on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, kind of like a real world review, and I had this camera at a distance with a mic on top and just filming me on a windowsill at a distance, getting a wide shot. And I was able to film successfully and get some audio, but then it fell. And it fell in a way where the mic jack port was smashed against the insert of the microphone, and it kind of like bent all the insides. Now, I checked out the camera and I was like freaking out, making sure that it worked fine. The microphone itself, the part that goes in, the 3.5 millimeter part that goes in, was bent. But when I looked in the inside, it was pretty smashed in the microphone port. Camera worked fine, but now I couldn't use a mic. So then it came to the decision of, what do I do? Do I fix it? Do I not? Well, I've had a couple of alternatives when it comes to using a microphone on a DSLR. Now I have a Zoom H4n, and I actually would mount this thing on top of the 5D Mark IV like so, when I have like the right attachments. And what would happen is that it would work fine. I wouldn't record directly to the 5D, but I would sync it in post, recording onto this. But what happens when I want to use it with my gimbal? Well, it's not practical anymore. I could stick a microphone on it, like the Rode VideoMic Pro, but I can't stick this thing on it because it got really big, heavy, and then you couldn't balance it. So that's fine. But what about the onboard microphone on the camera? Well, it's okay, but it's not great, and it has a lot of feedback. And I've done a video on that in the past as well, where you can hear like a... I wanted to use the Canon and use it as if I had the same limitations. But then when recording this show as well, which I'm actually using my Samsung NX1 today to record, I had no issues because I would just record to the Zoom H4n, and the actual camera itself recorded onboard audio, and it was fine. And I was like, okay, let me see how long I can get this to last. Now, I missed vlogging with the 5D Mark IV going outside because I wasn't gonna carry around the Zoom H4n for too long. But then while using this camera, I realized that I did miss having a microphone on this, the dual pixel autofocus, the 4K. I mean, there are benefits of this camera that are pretty well. NX1 has these benefits too as well, along with the compressed 4K recording, but there's no log on the Samsung NX1, and that increased level of dynamic range is what I was looking for on the 5D Mark IV. So being upset, and my trip to London, I start realizing that I really wish I had a microphone. Coming back here, I also started recording my shows, a couple episodes of my show, but then I started realizing that I use a monitor to see myself when I'm recording. The monitor's right there where I'm pointing. And the monitor stopped working with the 5D Mark IV. So I started to think, this looks like it could be a board issue, like the actual board is damaged after that fall, and that's not good. So then I had a decision to make, which all of us, if you ever dropped or messed up your camera, you have to make. The decision to make is, do I buy a new camera that is comparable with Canon and then have like an extra one, or fix my 5D Mark IV? Now, 5D Mark IV came out in 2016. It does 4K DCI at up to 30 frames per second. It does 24p. It has dual pixel autofocus while recording in 4K. You can install Canon Log. You have 1080 at 60 frames per second and 720 at 120 frames per second. Dual pixel autofocus works on all of those frame modes except the 120 frames per second at 720p. Then you have to manual focus. Color science, I mean, this camera is a pretty good build. 2 card slots, with an EOS R only has 1 card slot. I mean, sure, no flip screen, but I have my issue with flip screens, but I'll talk about that later. Thinking about that, I'm like, this is a good camera. What can I get for a similar price? Now, I did call Canon, and I actually went down to the service area in New Jersey, a service area that I went to when I installed Canon Log a while back. I went back there and I wanted to know what the price was to get it fixed and also get it fixed, you know? And they told me that the price was pretty heavy. It was close to buying an M50, Canon EOS M50. So I had to think, what should I do? They offered me to join their CPS program, which is a professional services program, which would have meant I could take my camera to get serviced a lot closer to my home than where I was driving. And I get discounts for the repairs, but it was still pretty hefty. And I found out that that location was actually closing in less than a week. So my thoughts to all the employees that work there. Hope you got transferred. And if you're let go, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I wanted to get the camera fixed. So I'm like, you know what? I joined the program, screw it. So I left my camera with them. Now, the important thing that you want to keep in mind, first of all, they were very nice. They were so accommodating and understanding, and really felt bad for me that I had done that to the board. So keep in mind, take out cameras, cards, everything from your camera. Pull it away because you're not going to get it back. So I took out my battery, I took out my SD card. I even took off the little lid to the front of the Canon camera because I did not want anything to lose any of the pieces. So I left it with them. I called, joined the CPS program. You had to have a couple of points to actually join. But I had enough equipment and I do this professionally too. So they accepted me, no problems. Went in and it was just fine. So this was Monday to Tuesday. So Tuesday, joined their servicing. The repairs took a little longer than I thought. It should have turned around at least within 48 hours, which is what they would have told me. But by that Friday, I still hadn't gotten any word of where my camera was. So I called again, and I'm like, on the Saturday, actually. I called like the following Saturday. I'm like, where's my camera? What's the status? And they're like, oh, they're waiting for you to pick it up. And I was like, I indicated that I wanted it delivered, but he apologized. They had it changed to have it delivered. I guess there were communication issues. So whatever, fine. I get it back. Thank goodness I didn't have any shoe, and I have other cameras that I could record these videos with, and I was backlogged on videos anyway. So I get the camera back by the next Tuesday. So it took about a week for them to actually send it back. So I get it back from the mail, and I'm like, the first thing I think about when I bring it home, I'm like, Canon Log. If they replace my board, I never told them that I had Canon Log installed, and they'll have no indicator. If they didn't check the actual camera and turn it on, they'd have no indication that I actually had Canon Log. So I turned on the camera, went to the menus, no Canon Log. Ugh. That was painful. That was painful because I have to take it in. I made a phone call right away and I told them, look, I tested like the microphone port and everything else to make sure it's okay. But I was like, look, I have no Canon Log. They were extremely apologetic and they said, well, you're going to have to take it in again. And I did take it into the closer service center, thankfully, so I could just walk it right in, and they took care of me. And they were like, oh, yeah, they just looked at my report and they just took my camera and they're like, you'll have it next day. I could have come in that same day. It was a half an hour, but I actually had someplace to go. But next day I got my camera back and had Canon Log. So that was almost 2 weeks. This was like Thursday night of the following week that I got my camera 100% completely fixed. Yes, a little over a week, almost 2 weeks, but they were so accommodating. They acknowledged that they had made a mistake and at no extra charge reinstalled Canon Log again. And they were very grateful that I was not angry or anything like that. Now, I'm a pretty calm person, so, and I didn't need it for a shoot. However, yes, it was a long time. The one good thing about their service, the CPS program, is that they would give me a free loaner camera while they fixed it. So I didn't need it, but if I did need it, I would have been taken care of by Canon, which, first of all, this is not a paid advertisement for Canon or anything like that. This is just my own story. So there were frustrations. The thing I learned about getting this camera fixed is, first of all, don't break your camera and be very, very careful, because it does cost money if you're out of warranty and or if it's your mistake. But if you need to get service, they'll take care of you. Just make sure you communicate what's wrong, what happened, and if you have any special firmware installed like Canon Log, for example, or any other special features that are unusual, communicate that to them and communicate when you need your camera back, because they can accommodate you and try their best to at least give you options to take care of you. And that's what happened to me. My experience in the service is like, yes, there were mistakes, but everyone was very friendly and accommodating over the phone and in person when I showed up. They were probably the nicest people that work for service. I dealt with real people. The actual calling the phone to get service was quick. I actually spoke to a live person, didn't have to wait. You know how sometimes you're waiting for music for like 20 minutes? Didn't have to wait. I spoke to a live person within minutes, as long as I entered like the specific things that I needed. Like I needed technical support, yada, yada, boom. Was on the phone right away, which was good. And then at the end of the day, I got my camera back. I feel happy that it's fixed because it was worth it when compared to buying a weaker camera that still doesn't give me the features that I wanted that this one camera can do. So all in all, that's my experience with getting it serviced. I'm glad to have it back. Next time I shoot another episode, it's going to be with the 5D Mark IV, but the NX1 does a great job with these two. So NX1 was a good substitute in the meantime, but gonna go with the 5D for next time. Anyway, what's your experience when it comes to dealing with services? Also, Tony Northrup, I hope you saw this episode. So this is my personal experience. I don't know if it's gonna help you, but I saw your tweet asking about support. That was my experience with Canon. Hope that helped for what you were researching. But thank you. And as always, like, share, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later.